So in the aircraft, after we loaded and we repacked our bundles, we had 6 bundles strung underneath the aircraft, and they were capped on each end. We had a machine gun and ammunition in one, and probably hand grenades in another, and maybe some guy probably tried to get real smart and filled one of them with ping pong balls. But each one of these bundles weighed 300 pounds. Oh, wow. We had one bundle in the aircraft toward the tail end of it, and we would maneuver that one into the door, and that would go out just before I left. So we practiced the loading and unloading, and everything had to be perfect, and things were somber, and quiet, and the guys were all focused on what they were going to do and how they were going to do it. And we loaded up. We had to be helped into that aircraft. I remember the crew chief was pushing me up the 5-step ladder to get into that thing. That was all really awkward stuff getting in. So we flew from Merrifield Aerodrome in a section of 45 aircraft labeled section number 14. We were in the right-hand section of the 45 group 14. And we were supposed to jump on drop zone B, as far as we knew, drop zone B. But for some reason, the communication that to the pilots and to us was mislabeled, and we didn't know where we're supposed to drop. But as we flew over Portsmouth, England, and we were flash signals. We were on track. There's 45 aircraft in this section 14, and they were about I can't tell you how close they were, but they were too close. They knew what they were doing. The lead aircraft had a blue light on the top of it, and there were some officers in there. And the pilot evidently was knowledgeable about where we're supposed to go. And when that blue light goes on, then activity starts to really move on the ground. Now, prior to that, there was a group of Pathfinders. You've heard about the Pathfinders? Okay. So they laid in their panels, and they had their halophane glass lights shining 30 degrees up. They were dropped in the wrong place. Most of the Pathfinders did not end up on A. They ended up on the long segment of drop zone A. Drop zone B, no. Drop zone C, partially. Drop zone D, no. So as we flew from Portsmouth, England, at 5,000 feet, we dropped down to 150 feet, or 1,500 feet, and crossed the English Channel at 1,500. We passed over 2 small submarines that gave us signals: you're on track, you're on time. And our takeoff time was 10:41 English double summertime. So we knew what that was going to be. And when those engines started up, it sounded like everything was going to fly apart in that aircraft, that all the rivets were going to come out and everything. It was rattle banging and all kinds of noise. So backtracking in a little bit, after we got into the aircraft and took off, an incident occurred in one of the other aircraft. There was an opening for one more jumper, and so suddenly a guy appeared that he ran away from the hospital, and he was injured some way. Got away, probably injured on a practice jump in England. And he got out of the hospital, and no equipment, and little if any clothing. The guys gathered together and they got him a rifle and an equipment and got him in the aircraft. And we still don't know who this guy was, but he was in Lieutenant Hamilton's plane, and in another section. And as this aircraft was turned from the point of the arrow to go down the long runway, it just began to move a little bit faster, and a rifle shot went off. Oh. This guy fired his rifle.
Oh, geez.
evidently I can't prove it, but assumed to try to get out of it now. And Hamilton went over and grabbed him by the shoulders, picked him up with all of the equipment that they had given him, took him toward the door and banged his head against the bulkhead and threw him out. And the plane was now moving at a little bit faster, so he bounced a little bit, and after Normandy invasion was over, the Board of Inquiry brought it into being, and they questioned everything about it, and they exonerated Lieutenant Hamilton. The guy should have been shot for doing that.
So, Tom, I mean, we could go on for thousands of days.
Yeah.
This is so amazing. It's 75-year anniversary of Normandy, and you're going to be over there doing another jump,
yeah,
which is amazing. So your memories are so vivid.
Yeah.
It's
amazing.
Is it as clear do you dream about it, or how did you cope with all of that coming back to the United States afterwards?
Well, when I got back to the United States on December 23rd, that is in Coronado, I dealt with it because I knew what I wanted to do. Any documents that came through from headquarters, I kept a copy. Boy, I got some real keen, neat documents that I did not circulate to the rest of the guys, and so I still have those. And one is by General Marshall about Market Garden invasion. But I was focused on getting back into college. That's where I wanted to be. I didn't want any more of the Army. I had a love affair with the United States Army and a hate affair with the Army of the United States. Those are all the bozos.
And you've written a book,
yes,
to commemorate those who didn't make it back.
Yeah.
And then you taught for 44 years in the Sweetwater School District and at San Diego City College as well.
Mm-hmm.
Did you continue to coach track as well?
I coached for 25 years at Chula Vista High, and then a few years at Hilltop High. And I was teaching U.S. history and government.
Oh, wow.
And then
You are U.S.
Yeah.
history and government.
I like the story that I like to usually tell about some of the activities there at Hilltop High School the first year of 1960. We had a textbook on page 478, chapter 28. There was a Lieutenant Strobel, and you've seen the picture of Eisenhower grouped together with the Lieutenant Strobel with the big number 23 on his chest. That's the plane he's going to, and he's talking to General Eisenhower, and then General Eisenhower is talking to him, and the conversation goes on back and forth, and they made a postage stamp out of that. You remember that postage stamp? Okay, that's the one. And there's one guy, the third from the left, who was focused on General Eisenhower. He's got big ears, and he's trying to get in on a conversation. And the daughter of this gentleman sent me a letter and told me that who he was. His name was Martin, and if I knew anything about it. So on this page of this textbook, I sent my entire history textbook to Lieutenant Strobel, and I told him to write the story right on the page. And so he did. He sent it back, and then he gave me a 3-page detailed list of activities that went on. Wow. So I have that now, and I got a letter from his daughter, and so I'm sending the copy of that letter to her, and that'll conclude it for her, because she doesn't even know about Lieutenant Strobel as I remember. So that was kind of unique, how things came about and got around and then came back again. So
I'd like you to address the coping mechanism you talked about and how you came back and wrote this book in honor of the fallen soldiers and the running. You took up running. I think that's an important part of the conversation.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was a junior now in college and interested in teaching and doing something with all these documents that I have. And I wrote letters during the war to Dr. Post. he accumulated over 5,000 letters, and they have been recently published in a book now. And so the author of the book got a hold of me, and we had a long conversation about what was said and what was not said, and what took place and did not take place. So we had fun doing that just about 2 weeks ago.
Oh, wow.
So her name is Shapiro, and she teaches at, I think, Cuyamaca College. But I lost the question now.
Go ahead.
No, he was just saying that when you came back, you took up running as
Yeah.
one of your coping mechanisms. Being
Yeah.
a runner, I understand.
Yeah,
You get the euphoria that you don't
Yeah,
get with
right.
anything else.
yeah.
And so that helped you a
No,
lot because you said that, you mentioned also that, every military veteran has some,
Fears. He's got 3 fears: fear of fame, blame, and shame.
Exactly.
He's got to deal with those. If he doesn't know how to deal with them, he's got some real serious problems. So I dealt with those by running. And I had a background of running in high school, so it was easy for me to pick up on that. And coming from Coronado, where the population took care of us kids, we developed some character, because it was military character. Then that was very important. So with all my experiences and multiplicity dwelled on me, and I took all of these character building activities and lodged them in the back brains of in the convoluted back sections of my mind where men seldom go, and I could rely upon them for some kind of an aid, because our officers put us under danger every single day. Every single day there was some kind of plan for danger. So every time we jumped, we were behind enemy lines, and we were on our own for the most part. And we were spread out so far in the Normandy that it took better than a week for us to get together. We lost 8 company commanders and a lieutenant colonel, Major Gage, and I don't know who the others were, but we had 38% casualties there.
wow.
So,
So when you go back, this will be your 6th time going back.
oh, at least.
When you go back, does it all recreate itself for you, or has enough changed that you can kind of keep your memories where they are and move on from there?
I got them lodged in the back brain of my mind, and then if I in the dark and deep convoluted areas, if I need to rely on one of them, I could go in and pick out the one I want. That's why I can tell you stories.
That's awesome.
Reach
It's
in
amazing. You're amazing.
and pick them out, and then be careful on expanding them. So.
I like the story about where you were at the end of World War II. I think and then we'll probably have to wrap it up to time. But where were you at the end of World War II?
In Birch's Garden, and the 506 beat us to Birch's Garden. They had the pick of the liquor and the chicks. They wanted to get that one in.
Good, good.
And then we had to take what's left over. So now we were in rest and recreation for the most part. We weren't used to that kind of thing. So we'd go out hunting. And hunting was close by and nearby, and the area is forested, deeply forested in that area. So we moved out more toward Linz, Austria.
Oh, I was just there.
Oh, you were?
Uh-huh.
That's where Hitler was born. And we got to know that place for about a week or so. We go into the woods and hunt for deer, and we were on our own for food. So we'd go out and shoot deer, but how do you bring in a big carcass of deer? With the one guy that could butcher, but I don't remember whether he did any of that or not. But 3 of us came upon a great big buck deer with antlers. Wouldn't believe the size of it. I said, "Don't shoot. Let me get him. You guys got M1s. I got a German rifle." And so I aimed and I squeezed the trigger, and it went click. And his head came up like that, and then we froze where we were intellectually, and we just froze right where we were. Didn't make a motion until the head went down again. He started browsing. I took a sighting on him and squeezed the trigger, click. Second time it went click. These guys were getting real itchy. So let me shoot him. It went down again, browsed a little bit more, and I took a sighting on him, and the other guys all fired at once. They all missed, and the buck ran off. Well, which was a good thing, because I don't know how we would have dealt with it. But that's the funniest one that we were involved in there.
I'll let you close 'cause we-
So, what were some more of your questions? I like your
We
questions.
could go on, Tom. We could go on for days. We're kind of limited in terms of our film crew
Yeah.
and our filming. We like to do it again. We invite maybe another time to
Yeah, we could do that
do it a
again.
second time and maybe go into a little more depth in terms of
Yeah.
some areas that you would like to. We don't want this to be one and done, so to speak, because we just think that your service. And again, as somebody who has 3 children who obviously were not alive in that time, my father was a World War II veteran, but the population is not really going to remember what you fought for, that you're the greatest generation, and that you are the reason why we're here today to be able to live in this great country, and I honor your service.
You're fun people to work with.
Well, thank you.
Very
So,
courteous.
Well, we honor you. We wish you well. I know you're about to head to
We can't wait to hear
France.
about your trip to Normandy. Maybe we'll
Oh.
come back after Normandy
that'd
so
be
we
a good
can hear
idea.
about the trip.
Yeah, we could just unload everything on a trip. I jumped in.
May go into that book a little bit
Yeah.
more in depth.
Yeah.
And we want to continue this on.
Yeah.
But we got to get them back to their office.
Oh, they're office ladies. Huh? I jumped in Normandy last year. No, not Normandy, Montpellier on the Mediterranean. Then they closed the airport. No incoming flights, no outgoing flights, no passengers, and there was about 30 French paratroopers there. And one of them gave me his wings. Yeah, he was a battalion commander.
Wow.
Well,
So we had a lot of fun there.
it's not like Hogan's Heroes. It's not like
Yeah.
how they portrayed in Hogan's Heroes.
Those French got to be real careful, these Frenchmen, because they gave me a gift of, I don't know whether it'd be appropriate to tell you or not, but it was about a dozen cookies and 6 condoms. I didn't know what to do with those damn things.
Well, we truly, truly appreciate you taking the time with us today, and we will come back after your trip to
Yeah,
Normandy.
you got to
for
do
sure.
that. I got 2 days of this in Mater D High School,
Awesome.
and so
Well, Tom, we could go on. We're gonna cut. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. Be well. Our honor. We honor you.
It's been a
and
pleasure.
We
Yeah.
pleasure meeting you. Thank you very much. Senior Stay or Go TV.